It looks like we're live here. Guys, Hector here, Corpus Christi, for our next Hardstyle Live. And I'm excited because I got my good friend here, John Spezzano. So John and I met 2012 through the kettlebell at a level 2. I think it was the last RKC2 that was in 2012 with Pavel. So over the time I've come to know John. He's a highly qualified martial artist. He's been training martial arts for over 35 years. And a really interesting thing, John actually learned from Dan Inosanto. If you're not familiar with him, this is the guy that learned from Bruce Lee himself and is continuing to spread his knowledge and vision. So John had the opportunity to train with him in 1992, learned from him for 14 years, and started teaching in 1995. John is also a StrongFirst Team Leader. What does that mean? He basically travels and teaches other professionals about kettlebells, how to use them, and how to help their students get stronger with kettlebells. And he's also a brown belt in Brazilian jiu-jitsu, which is awesome. He kind of after my own heart there. So a wealth of knowledge for you guys. I'm really excited. John, thanks for taking the time to jump on and to hang out with us for 30 minutes. Tell us, I mean, we know that you didn't come out of the womb of BJJ brown belt, a Jeet Kune Do expert, kettlebell expert. Like, how did this all start?
Hector, first off, thanks for having me. I do appreciate you you putting me in the mix. It's really nice of you. It's always great to see you and chat with you. Well, as a little kid, I was always fascinated with the Saturday morning martial arts movies, and I just always wanted to train martial arts. So I started karate and judo and stuff like that as a kid. Long time ago, about 35 years ago. And when I moved to LA, I started training at the Inosanto Academy, like you mentioned, with Mr. Inosanto, and he's really everything that you expect him to be. He's just an amazing man, an amazing example. I was really blessed to train with him for as long as I did. Started in '92, moved on to my own practice in 2010. So I was with him for a long time, started teaching at his school in '95 and taught there till 2009. So I put in a lot of time with him, and I was really lucky to be able to do that. During that time, he introduced me to so many things, and not just martial arts. I mean, he introduced me to all the different martial arts I teach. He also introduced me to jiu-jitsu, which, as you mentioned, I got a brown belt about a year and a half in from Sean Williams. And he also introduced me to kettlebells. And that was in about 2006 that he introduced me to kettlebells with Doc Chang. And I found them to be pretty magical in terms of getting rid of nagging injuries I would have in my back, and I mean, all the kinds of things that martial artists get. And so I basically owe him pretty much everything that I've done. He's a pretty amazing guy. If you ever get a chance to meet him, I highly recommend you do.
Yeah, it'd be amazing if that ever happened.
Awesome. Sorry, where did I leave off there? So then in 2010, I've been teaching for a long time already. I've been teaching since '95, but in 2010, actually earlier than that, but 2010 was when we opened 5-Star, and back in 2005, pretty much, I went full-time professional martial arts instructor. I was teaching seminars in the UK and around the country. Then in 2010, 5-Star Martial Arts opened, and I poured my time in there. Wasn't really able to travel to teach anymore, but I was doing a lot of teaching at 5-Star. Started the Muay Thai program for them and started the strength program for them, which was built around kettlebells and powerlifting. I was there for 6 years, left there the end of last year. And now I'm opening Source One Martial Arts and Fitness in downtown LA, and looking forward to doing my own thing. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to it.
Nice. Fantastic. So been training martial arts for 30 plus years. You know, I think we've noticed it just through, you came across the kettlebell through Doc Chang. And I'm sure that as a martial artist, we see the correlation between mastery of skill and these different types of tools. So like, take us through that kettlebell journey. You had some nagging injuries, which we all get, right? It just kind of comes along with the art sometimes. You know, did you have hesitations? Were you like, what is this kettlebell thing? Like,
completely.
So
yeah, I mean, Doc still gives me a hard time, whatever, over a decade later, that I used to say, kettlebell, it's just a weight, what's the big deal? And he still loves riding me about that. Obviously, everything's in the application. I mean, we've all seen people do stupid things with the kettlebell, and we've all seen people do magical things with kettlebell in terms of what it can do for your recovery, for your performance, for your general fitness. For me, I think because so much of martial arts is one, asymmetrical, whether you're doing jiu-jitsu or striking, a lot of times you're in one lead all the time, or you prefer passing the guard one way, and all these asymmetries build up over time. And for me personally, I would have, like, a classic example be I'd bend over to tie my shoe and my back would seize up. And I found literally within like 2 months of Doc showing me how to do deadlifts and a swing with a kettlebell that all of a sudden, like, I didn't have any kind of back injuries. And this wasn't even using any corrective exercises yet. This was just swings and deadlifts, and then that was literally like it. So I was pretty much sold, immediely. And obviously when you're injury free, you can train more. You can focus on the things that you want to do. And so one of the big things for me was, as I became injury free, I was really able to focus on my training even more. And boy, I wish I'd found kettlebells earlier, because if I had, I would have had so many more years of pain-free training.
Nice. So I think you said something there that stuck out. And I think in the whole fitness world, sometimes we can kind of get lost in always doing corrective exercise, there's nothing wrong with it. If you've got movement problems, you've got problems, like, address them. But you notice that just in getting a little bit stronger with some movements, and I think that's one of the great things about kettlebells, is that you can train it both left and right sides. So it will definitely iron out a lot of those bad habits that we develop through sports. So kind of talk a little bit about on that. Like, I'm sure you dealt with people on a daily basis that have tried many other tools that have asymmetries, and that are constantly going through just corrective exercise. What are some people that are just kind of constantly focused on that? What would you advise them to do and get started?
People who are constantly focused on correctives only, and not necessarily
like they'll spend 20, 30 minutes on correctives, and yet they still haven't gotten to the strength part, and they still haven't even done their sparring or anything like that. Right.
Well, for us here, we don't blend the curricula, so we don't have martial arts classes mixed with strength classes, so they're separate. So they wouldn't be like sparring in the same class as they're doing the strength training. But I think if someone has an injury, obviously you need to address that. I'm not a medical professional. I always, send them to my chiropractor, Ira Schneider. He's amazing. If you're in LA, go see him. And once they get cleared and they can do everything they need to do, in my opinion, it's really about what Doc calls prehabbing, so I can do get-ups or bent presses or some part of the bent press progression or windmills or something where I can do them, not necessarily with a problem in mind, but with keeping problems from arising. So what I usually have our people do is, after a warm-up, they'll do a corrective, and it'll be based on their training for the month, or it'll be based on their particular personal issues. And it's not about curing a problem in one session. It's about the long haul over time, having them start to balance out right and left. I mean, when we did our first level 2 together, I could press half my body weight on my right, but I couldn't even come close on the left. And by the second time I went through it, I could press half my body weight on both sides. I could probably have done it if I could clean 2 bells that size. I could probably have done it at the same time, but that takes time. It took a few years before the left side caught up to the right side. So for me, with most of my students, it's about the long haul in terms of correctives, because they're important and they're essential and they should be done. But like you said, and I'm in complete agreement, if you just get stronger in general, if you just get relatively more fit in general, that will solve a lot of problems as well. And now you will always have outliers on both ends of the spectrum, people who never get injured, people who get injured at the slightest thing. There's always outliers, and they don't fall into the big part of the bell-shaped curve. But for most people, I found if we do some correctives and then we do plenty of strength and some conditioning, it pretty much fixes everything.
Nice. So just to kind of continue on the strength thing, which, I mean, you come from such a rich history of martial arts through Dan Inosanto and that lineage, which, you know, Bruce was very keen on strength and very, I mean, his routine was amazing. So, you know, I guess for the people that are watching, and I'm really fascinated by this, because I've interviewed several other martial artists, and I have my own, you know, philosophies on training. Like, as a martial artist, like, how do you train for strength training? How do you teach your martial artists about strength training? Because sometimes we can get, you know, strength and conditioning can turn into conditioning and more conditioning, and then sometimes it can turn into, oh, well, I don't lift weights, I just practice my art. So, like, what is your take on strength training for martial artists, and how do you apply that to your training?
I'm pretty simple in just about everything I do. I weightlifted for a long time, so I had Olympic lifting years with Sean Waxman out here in Southern California, really talented lifter, amazing coach. But I started it when I was, 43 years old. It's like I had no intention of becoming a competitive weightlifter. It's a very niche exercise. I think it has a lot of benefit. I think learning how to snatch a bar really helped my T-spine and shoulders a lot. But I think there are other things that you can do to accomplish that as well. If your focus is CrossFit, if your focus is weightlifting, then yeah, you should snatch and clean and jerk. But they're super technical, and you can spend your whole life studying them and probably never perfect them. Whereas if you take kettlebell movements, which are simpler, powerlifting movements, which are simpler, you can build a lot of strength, and then you can supplement your conditioning with some conditioning protocol with or without the kettlebell. And most important, with the kettlebell, you can address the corrective. So for me, I know most martial artists are going to be rounded up top because I do so much stuff like this. Whether you're jiu-jitsu or whether you're Thai boxer or boxer, whatever, doesn't matter. You're always like this because that's how you have to be when you train. But you don't have to be like that when you're not training. And so the main things that I work on for most people who are in the martial arts program, and certainly for myself, is I work on really opening up their back and their shoulders and their chest to start to counteract this common issue. And that really helps them a lot because all of a sudden they can stand taller. And when you stand taller and your posture is better, you feel better. You actually have a better attitude, and it helps you face the day with much more willingness to not see obstacles as impossible to clear, but just what they are. And so I'm a firm believer that your physicality and your posture in particular really helps your mindset. And if you can fix that stuff, it will help your mindset open and make you more productive as well. So long story short, I focus on really basic lifts. So deadlift, I personally prefer front squat to back squat because it helps my posture more, and it's easier bail for students who are new. They can get out from under it much easier. And overhead squats for some prehab, if you will. And then with the kettlebell, really basic stuff, swings, snatches. I like to press a lot. I press all the time. I really like to press. Yeah. I'm not a huge fan of high volume snatches, but I really love the new protocols with that Pavel's been going through for conditioning. So I've been doing those. And in terms of correctives, like I said, some kind of bent press progression, whether it's armbar, bent armbar, kneeling, bent armbar, kneeling, windmills, whatever they are, those are great. Get ups, obviously, and that fills the hour pretty easily.
Yeah. That's definitely eye opening. Very similar approaches. I myself have never looked into weightlifting, but I mean, definitely a sport and an art all on its own. So,
yeah, it's fun. I mean, it is fun, and if you want to check it out, you should find a good coach and check it out. It's fun, but it is a rabbit hole. I mean, you're going to go down a rabbit hole with that
for sure. Just out of curiosity, of all your years in martial arts, have you ever fought professionally, or have you ever trained people that have fought professionally, whether it's Muay or anything like that?
I did not fight professionally. I fought a little bit back when I was coming up. They called them smokers because you couldn't really find any amateur fights at that time. So I did a handful of smokers, which is basically just like some guys from this gym are going to go with some guys at that gym, and we're all going to meet at the other gym, and then whoever gets knocked out gets knocked out. So I did. It's like you just have an agreement, like, okay, when the bell rings, we're going to try and kill each other, but it's not It's not for money. It's not for any kind of rank, just for experience.
Right.
That was the only type of competition that I did in terms of that intensity. I was really lucky because when I was at the Spezzano Academy, a lot of professional fighters came in. I mean, I had the ability to spar with, I want to say 11 world champions of either Thai boxing or Savate who came in over the course of the time that we had this pretty intense kickboxing program. So I got a lot of really great lessons learned in sparring, and then put them together in a few fights. And I'm not a hugely competitive person in the sense of like, I don't have to do every jiu-jitsu tournament. I don't have to do. I know you're a high level competitor. That was never my drive. I always wanted to compete enough to make myself knowledgeable, not just in a book sense, but in a practical application sense. So I know that when push comes to shove, you're not going to be able to do X or Y. You're going to go and that's like, that's the reality of it. And so I always wanted to have sort of a realistic view of the execution of the art under pressure. The art form is great, and then there should also be the art form under pressure as well. So that was my competitive experience. And I've done some jiu-jitsu tournaments. I just never have enough time to train for jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, jiu-jitsu is a crazy thing, man. If you're not doing it 24/7, it's one of those skills hard to. Yeah. It's constantly evolving. There's so many things changing. There's a new position like every 6 months, and it's kind of hard to keep up with some of that stuff.
Yeah, and if you don't keep up, you're not going to know what's happening.
Yeah. So I like to kind of go back and touch on. So you started training with kettlebells. You had some injuries. Started learning from Doc Chang. Like, tell us briefly about that journey that led you to your level 1. Like, talk about like your experience, like when you really kind of dove in with the kettlebell.
I was really lucky with having Doc Chang as my first coach. I've always been really lucky with having instructors who are just super well-rounded and high level and good at what they do. I've just been really lucky in that regard. And Doc's no exception. So we used to train on the weekends down at Santa Monica, at the Santa Monica beach. There's a little piece of grass down there we used to train on. It just started as kind of a loose class, and then it became a little more organized. And after a while, I just was like, man, I really dig this. I think I should try and do my RKC. Because I like you said earlier, I like the fine tuning approach. Like, it's sort of like martial arts. Like, I can keep getting better at swings and snatches and presses and bent presses and all these things. I can keep getting better at these things. It's not like you just learn it and then that's it. And martial arts has the same thing. I mean, a punch is a punch, kick's a kick, but yeah, I mean, not really, right? Like, you can perfect anything, and it's that pursuit of perfection that is so attractive, right? So that was really what. And plus, Doc is just so compelling when he teaches. Like, he's really great at getting you interested in what you're doing, and it just fired me up. And that was, I think, back in 2008, I did my first RKC. Yeah.
Nice. And so after RKC, like, how long did it take you to decide? I'm sure you started learning about, strict heavy pressing, things like that. Like, what kind of led you to getting your level 2?
I had, I want to say I had assisted in Denmark. It's a little hazy now, Hector. I had assisted in Denmark, and I redid my requirements for the level 1 then, and that was before I met you at Powell's last level 2. And I think it was just, I honestly think it was just, I realized that the level 2 would bring me a deeper level of understanding. There's a ton of material in the level 1 that you could probably spend the rest of your life on. But the performance requirements are not that big if you become, if you really get into bells, like, it's not that hard to do your level 1 requirements. But if you're going to do your level 2 requirements, like a half body weight bent press, a half body weight press, half body weight get up, all these things, double jerks, like, all these things are very much now performance driven. And so I need to train hard and smart in a way to prep me for this day of performance. And I think that challenge was just very interesting to me. And I'm really glad I did it. I mean, the level 2 was was great. It was a really amazing build off of the level one. And then also these things that I would never have been able to do 3-4 years earlier, you know. I mean, I was relatively strong-ish, you know, not really by our standards today, but, you know, for a guy who mostly did martial arts, I was relatively strong. But I certainly wasn't at the level I was at when I did my level 2, and definitely not when I redid my level 2, because then that was even harder requirements then.
Nice. And then a year later, you and I, we met again at the first barbell cert in Tucson. So
yeah,
I mean,
that was awesome.
Your barbell strength is getting better. I mean, you've got a very impressive sumo deadlift. Like, kind of touch on that, like, as far, because I think most athletes, you know, whether martial artists, they don't really consider heavy strength training as a part of their program. They're always, you know, more on either sport specific stuff or looking into conditioning drills. Like, how is the barbell, since you've implemented the barbell into your training, how has that affected things?
Well, I think quite clearly, like, a good deadlift is very much about prehab. Like, you can avoid a lot of unnecessary injuries if you're just a little stronger. Like, I don't need a 4 times body weight deadlift. That's not necessary for me. The amount of time I would have to spend on the deadlift to get that number is completely counterproductive for me. Now, if that's your goal, awesome. You're a competitive powerlifter. You better have a huge deadlift. But for me, I think the StrongFirst standards of the double bodyweight deadlift are good. I think they're doable for most men. And I think the benefits that come along with it in terms of just being more sturdy are really helpful. So for me, I think the biggest benefit to the powerlifting is you're just more durable. And hey, it's a lot of fun to pick things up and put them down. And the hormonal response that you get from lifting heavy things is great for your body. I mean, it's great for your bones. It's great. It's just great for you. So, and if you can do it in a way that's safe, why not?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I myself have become a deadlift addict over the last few years.
I know, I can tell when I watch your clips.
Cool, man. So, like, just kind of change gears here. So, in 35 years of teaching martial arts, I mean, you're married. You've been married for 16 plus years to your wife, who also is a martial artist. She's lifting now. So, you've made this transition from, you know, helping a colleague with 5-star martial arts. Now you're transitioning into a whole new journey of your own place. Like, tell us a little bit about, like, the future. Like, what are some things that you're looking forward to for either your training, personally, if you want to mention anything personally, and like your future? Like, what are some of your projects moving forward, if you want to share with that?
I'm really excited to get my new gym up and running. I mean, I'm sure you've seen a bunch of the pictures on Facebook and Instagram. It's just the construction always takes longer than you expect. But we're closing in on it. I actually have I'm planning on starting a limited evening class schedule on Monday, the 21st of this month. And then we'll expand to our full schedule on Monday, the 4th of September. And the main thing that I'm doing here, it's different from what I've done elsewhere, is we're focusing on semi-private for the fitness. There will be some group classes as well, but semi-private will be our main thing. So that allows students to pursue personalized goals. So, like, I had a lot of people get massive presses and get great conditioning in my group classes before over at 5-star. But what if you come to me and you don't want to press heavy? You know, well, this month we're pressing heavy. Like, that's just the group class. That's what we're doing. And it's good for you, but the personalization is not there. So what the semi-private allows people to do is follow a personalized program. They just share the time slot with a few other people, and they're able to follow their own personal goals. The other thing that's really exciting for me is I've been teaching Thai boxing. I was only teaching Thai boxing at 5-star, but I teach 6 different martial arts. So I'm really excited to get back into teaching all of those martial arts, you know, teaching the wooden dummy, teaching the JKD, teaching the Silat, teaching the Kali, you know, all those things are really fun, because the way that we learned under Mr. Asano was, when I started there, we would just blend everything. Everything was just together. They were called phase classes, and you would come in and you'd probably do some kind of shadow boxing warm-up, and then maybe some pad work, and then maybe you'd grab the sticks, and then maybe you'd finish with some groundwork. I mean, it was just always a mixed bag. And it's really fun. It's really fun to mix all those things, because you get a more complete view of how combat can be applied, and also how scenarios to be prepared for should you encounter a knife on the street. And also, if you get bored training that style of stuff, you got some serious ADD. Like you need to be someone, because you're always doing something different, and it's really fun. It's high energy. It's varied. It's just a great time. So I'm looking forward to starting those classes on the 21st. So I can get, because my roots are in a Sano style. Like my roots are about blending everything. That's where I came from. So I'm excited to get back to that. I love Thai boxing, taught for a long time. I'll continue to teach it as part of this program. But now because all my Thai boxing students, they don't realize I was showing them Wing Chun in the clinch. They don't realize I was showing, like, they don't know that. It's okay. It's totally fine. But now I can actually, go into detail on some other things,
Nice. Yeah, actually, we're in the process of, Jake just went for some training. He did his first course to his introductory to Krav Maga. So,
cool.
Yeah, we're looking at incorporating some of that. Jake's got a boxing background, so we're incorporating that, jiu-jitsu. So we're getting a little bit of a blend of a few different martial arts styles. So that's great, man. Well, we're getting ready. We're coming close to the end of our time here. John, what's the best way people can find you? Like, are you currently, I know that you teach for StrongFirst, occasionally. Do you have courses coming up? Like, how can people find you in the Los Angeles area?
There's a few ways. You can go to the website, source1martialartsandfitness.com. You can shorten it to source1maf.com. You can reach me on Facebook, either through my name or through the Source One Martial Arts page, Instagram, Source1maf. Those are the easiest ways to get in touch with us. We will be offering some nice discounts for this initial opening. So if anyone's interested in training, now's the time to do it, because you can check everything out for with a considerable discount. Those are the best ways. And my email would be John, John, at source1maf.com, the number 1.
Let me see. Is it source1maf.com?
Yeah, source1maf.com.
Cool. Awesome, man. Well, so for those that are looking to get in contact with John, you can email him at his email, john@source1maf.com. From there, you can get tons of information about his services, his classes, martial arts, strength training, you name it. Definitely the place to go. In LA. So when I'm, if I ever end up there, I'm going to be looking you up for some deadlifting. All right, guys. Well, John, thanks for taking the time to, sharing your insights on training, telling us a little bit about like your story and how it all happened. Thanks for your friendship, and man, really thanks for tuning in.
Thanks, Hector. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
All right, guys, we're out of here. We'll be back next Friday, same time. Bye, guys.